X in my name is not just a symbol or a target sign. A spell that attracts all who spit facts online all the time.
Can you see it? All the ones who drag my name every single day. Can you see it? Can you see it? Can you see it? They keep saying you don't have what it takes to carve out your own name underneath the shadows of gods. And I keep waiting for the day disbelievers say I flew way too close to the sun. I wait, but it never really comes. The X in my name is not just a symbol or a target sign. A spell that attracts all who speak facts online all the time. The X in my name is not just a symbol or a target sign. A force that compels all to rebel from all right shackled mind. Why do they just stand there against when they fall from the battles I have overcome? You feel it, feel the cope and the seething tone that they make while I stand up, man among gods. And I keep vaping with my mills, shooting ropes in my cold that faces towards the sun. They hate, but I'm sitting comfy with their mom. The X in my name is not just a symbol or a target sign. A spell that attracts all who speak facts online all the time. The X in my name is not just a symbol or a target sign. A force that compels all to rebel from all that shackled mind. The X in my name is not just a symbol or a target sign. A spell that attracts all who speak facts online all the time. The X in my name is not just a symbol or a target sign. A force that compels all to rebel from all right shackled minds. It's you and me, your mom, it's me. I'll take another hit from my name. You'll see now, watch me right now, punch your face now. Show you how.
Good morning, everybody. It has been a little bit since my last stream, and I'm so sorry for that. I've been having internet issues, and on top of that, been quite busy, so I just haven't been able to stream as much as I wanted to the last couple days. But thankfully, we're back. My internet's back. I'm no longer in Florida. We can get back on the grind. Thank God. I hope you guys all missed me, though. It's so good to see all of you again. Hello there, Aska, Cryptid T, Daughter of Water, Lord Dracula, Lilithian, Wingo. So good to see you. Emily Damon, Rendering, 1898. Had a shitty day and your streams make my day? Oh, I'm glad to hear that, well, my streams help make your day better. I'm sorry to hear that your day's not doing too good. I'm a little bit, congested, though, sadly. Tends to happen when I, stream in the morning because it's the first time I'm talking all day. Like, yeah. Like, you start talking for the first time on stream and you're like, ah, shit, all the pipes aren't cleared up yet. You know, all my talking pipes are all congested still from waking up. New vape, yeah, sadly. I usually, I always go for these Flum Float things. They're fantastic. They're really good flavored. They don't make me feel like, lightheaded or nauseous from the flavor or anything. But My local vape store is out. And the guy who runs it says he'll order more. So I had to get this in the meantime. Morgan Freeman voice. I sound a little different in the morning. When I was younger, I could do a pretty good Morgan Freeman impression. I can't anymore, though. Are they single use? Yeah, these don't refill. They're single use. But don't worry, I dispose of them properly. I chuck them in the ocean and make sure that I see a sea turtle bite onto them. What mob am I voting for? Is the mob vote on Twitter this time around? Or do they do it on a separate platform? Because if it's on Twitter, I can't participate in the mob vote. What are the options? I forgot. October's coming up. Minecraft Con, or whatever the fuck it's called, is coming up. I gotta stream my reaction to it. I feel like it will be a good update. For once, I actually do have I have a positive opinion going in. I do think the next update's gonna be pretty neat. Mojang's in the last update or two really turned things around a bit, and I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt for this Minecon. 1.20 was good. I don't care what people say. Armor trim needed to be added to the game. I've been wishing for it for so long. If it was just the armor trim update, I'd be happy. They added a ton of other stuff. The cherry trees, amazing. The cherry trees with shaders on, like, game transforming. That alone makes me want to come back to the game. Caves and Cliffs was phenomenal. I don't know. I think they're moving in the right direction. What happened to Zan's Twitter? You see, Elon Musk was afraid of me, so he banned me. Permanently. And it's been, like, months. That happened a while ago. This isn't even news. Who's the hit piece by? I swear to God I read that as One Piece. Talking about streaming, when is the next FF14 stream? Yeah, pretty soon, actually. I do plan to do more gaming streams, so yeah, I will be playing more FF14 story on stream. So get excited for that. I'm still on Heavensward. I will finish Destroy All Humans 2 and Dead Space 2. I will. And I want to stream, because this is Halloween month. Or not Halloween, well, not yet, but we're getting... Well, it is, actually. We're in October now. It's the 5th. We're in Halloween month now. Which means I gotta stream some horror games. Which means what I think will happen is I'll start off with Destroy All Humans 2. Because aliens are kind of a spooky Halloween-y thing. But, like, kinda. Like, sort of. You know? Like, a little bit. So, earlier in this month... Like, sooner than later, I will finish Destroy All Humans 2. We might even restart it from the beginning, if you guys... Probably not, though. I don't know. There's a lot of extra content. Like, the story itself isn't very long, but there's all that extra content, you know? Usually when I come back to games, I restart them, but maybe I'll just continue, because I don't want to, like... force you guys into, like, rewatching. And you know, like, I want to finish the game. And I don't think we got that far before. We're in, like... I think we'd gotten to Japan, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, we will resume that game. Yeah, that is true. That is true, Summer Star. That is true. Maybe I'll start the game from the beginning and, like, play through it all in more of a singular play, not session, but, like, set of sessions. And then I was thinking we would probably end up restarting and fully playing through Dead Space Remake on stream. And then, as we get closer to Halloween, I was thinking the next game we play, Resident Evil 4 Remake. I've never played Resident Evil 4, and I heard the remake's good, and I like the Resident Evil games. I think I should get the Resident Evil 4 Remake and play through that, like, around and on Halloween. What do you guys think of that? That's my general idea for gaming streams going into the future. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. What spicy topics do we have today? Oh, we got some spicy ones. We got some good ones. We're going to be talking about Ben Shapiro. We're going to be talking about an anti-debate bro hit piece, another hit piece on Keffals about whether or not she's racist. And we're also going to be looking at a story about a delivery driver who claims self-defense in shooting a prank YouTuber dead. So we're going to be looking over the story behind that and giving some commentary. Oh, yes, we will have to play some Phasmophobia, yeah. Wait, he died? Oh, well, I assumed he died. I haven't read the story yet, because I didn't want to spoil myself. I mean, maybe he survived? Well, that makes the story far less exciting if he survived. Holy shit, I saw some guy defending the driver on YouTube Shorts, and I was so flabbergasted. The crazy thing as well is that, like, assuming that you live in a state that requires you to get a permit to carry a gun, like, hidden, like, concealed, you take a class. And the class, every class, from what I've seen, has a pretty significant amount of, it's of it dedicated to teaching the law around lethal self-defense. No, yeah, it is true. Please don't interrupt my stream, please. They have, like, a section on teaching, like, whether or not it's legal in certain situations to use lethal force to defend yourself. And, like, you could literally get put in prison for a long time for shooting somebody as they're running away from your property with your stuff that they've stolen. Like, if you shoot them as their back's turned to you, running away, you're probably ending up in prison. Like, even though it's America, and there's a lot of scenarios where you're allowed to use your gun to defend yourself and your property and your family and stuff, it's very much dependent on how scared for your life you are. And you want there to be witnesses, right? Like, you want there to be witnesses seeing you getting attacked with lethal force before you respond with lethal force to defend yourself. Because, like, you want there to be witnesses, trust me, because they're gonna try. Like, if you shoot someone to defend yourself, it doesn't matter if it's in your own house, you're getting taken away in handcuffs, and prosecutors are gonna try to put you in the hole forever. So, that delivery driver is, probably going to fucking prison. But we'll get more into the details in a minute. America is so scary. No, it's not. It's not actually that scary. The scary part of America is, like, the animals and the wildlife, okay? Like, a lot of you Europeans watch watch things about guns in America, and you're like, oh, you don't need these guns, right? But then, like, here, let me show you why we need guns, okay? You Europeans will never understand this, okay? Alright, good. There, okay. Forests in Europe. This is why we need guns. This is why we have all those guns. Try Finland? That fake place that doesn't exist? Finland? You're actually gonna think Finland trolls are gonna try to trick me into believing that fake country is real in my chat? Nice try. Nice freaking try. I know Finland's not real. New Zealand and Finland don't exist. I've seen many maps where they're not even there. Particularly New Zealand. How can you tell me New Zealand's real when I have seen globes that don't have it on there? Those globes are made before the conspiracy was figured out. New Zealand is actually just a made-up country by the US government to act as a cover for all the FBI agents. You see, America is the only country, and the world is actually just a cardboard cutout type shape of America floating in space, what's it called? Asgard in the MCU. It's just kind of floating there in space. And all of the FBI agents are actually the non-Americans. Because every American, as we know, has their own FBI agent that watches everything they do online. And you'd say, well, then every American would have to be an FBI agent, or there'd have to be like half of every American would have to be an FBI agent. That makes no sense. It's because all of the Europeans and foreigners online are actually Americans posing as people from these fictional made-up other countries, and they're the FBI agents. The chat just got real silent. I just called out so many... That'd be so funny, though. Zan got possessed by Marjorie Taylor Greene, spouting out conspiracies like it's his lifeblood. Listen, I genuinely... There's a non-0% chance this is real, okay? I've never left America. I don't know that, like, when you get to the edge of American soil, it doesn't just, like, end. Like, reality doesn't just, like, stop there. Like, it's not that there's, like, a void of nothingness there. It's that there's nothing there. There's a difference. It's not like you look there and there's a black or white void. Nothing is there beyond the border of America. A nothing that humans can't perceive or even try to comprehend. So you can't even in your mind imagine the nothing that is there. Yeah, you walk in, you just kind of like no clip to Alaska. Alaska's not real. I don't think Alaska's real. Okay, if any two states aren't real, it'd be Hawaii and Alaska. I've never seen anywhere as pretty as the images of Hawaii I've seen online. I've never seen anywhere that pretty in real life, okay? I don't believe it's possible. Yeah, okay. You're telling me, like, 12 sleigh dogs, like, just dogs they tie to sleighs, managed to ride through a blizzard across the fucking state of Alaska in order to deliver diphtheria, like, antibiotics? In a blizzard? There's several nights, I believe? No. No way. No way that shit's true. I'm sorry, this is the meanest bit I've ever done. I'm just joking, guys. I love Balto. There's a picture of me when I was like 8 years old, standing next to the Balto statue in Central Park. Because I learned about the story of Balto quite young, and dogs are fucking awesome. So when I went to New York and I knew about the statue, I was like, we gotta go to this statue. And we went to the statue, and I got a picture next to the statue. Dude, the Northern Lights is something I need to see in real life, okay? Like, I've never seen any particularly, like, amazing cosmic phenomena with my own eyes, okay? Hey, Holly. I've seen a full-on solar eclipse. That was probably the coolest thing, okay? Especially because I was super into Dark Souls 3 at the time, so I was like, whoa, it's like the end of Dark Souls 3, bro, when you fight the Soul of Cinder. Oh my god, bro, it's a full solar eclipse, soy! Just like Dark Souls 3, because I was, like, 17. So yeah, that entire, like, complete solar eclipse that happened back in 2017 was cool. Apparently there's another one coming. I was in the gas station in Florida, and they had little glasses they were selling on the counter for looking up at solar eclipses, and they had a date on them that was in the future, like a couple months from now. There's supposed to be another full solar eclipse, I guess. That's pretty neat. And then I've seen a few cool meteor showers, but that's pretty much it. If I like the idea of the Northern Lights existing doesn't feel real to me because it's just too cool. I live in Washington now. I live in Seattle, and I feel like this is far enough north that if we get hit by like a particularly angry sun fart, then maybe the Northern Lights will just like miraculously be seen this far south. Because I know it's been seen in Chicago before. Like the Northern Lights are able to like stretch down sometimes pretty far south. So maybe now that I live so far north, I'll be lucky enough that I'll see the Northern Lights at least faintly someday. Yeah, if you see the Northern Lights in Florida, congrats, it's the end of the world. Yeah. This summer I went to the woods in Canada and saw a huge shooting star across the sky. That's awesome. Did you know the Northern Lights are mostly radiation? Well, it's actually the reaction that the radiation is having on the Earth's magnetic pole. So we have two magnetic poles because we're a big, metallic magnetic rock in space. And we get blasted with radiation, and that magnetic field protects us. A lot of it's generated by the fact that our mantle, the Earth's mantle, which is just molten metal, a lot of it is, and it's really hot, is like rubbing against the solid crust. Like there's friction being created. And so that produces a lot of our planet's magnetic charge, which protects us. Our active geography, our geo, what's the word for it? Our geo whatever shit beneath the Earth is what allows us to not get baked by radiation. So that's pretty cool. And we also have a very nice atmosphere that does help a lot too. Yeah, Geodude. Yes, exactly. That's what I was trying to say. Thank you. Science with Zan. I have approximate knowledge of many scientific topics, chat. Flowers are blooming in Antarctica. That's not supposed to happen. I don't think that's supposed to happen. I think it's supposed to be a barren wasteland. Cherry T21, thank you for the $10 donation. I really appreciate it. I'll buy myself some Hot Pockets with that. Sent me a YouTube link. What is this? Death Note, but they order fast food. I've seen this video. I should wait for my mom to finish using the bathroom because she loves Death Note. I turned my mom into a weeb, chat. I turned her into a weeb. My mom really did not like anime. And, like, I never liked it either, so it wasn't, like, a problem or anything like that. But there were a couple of animes I really was interested in due to the general, like, just amount of reach they had and popularity and the references. I wanted to understand them. So I decided to watch Death Note, and that was my first ever anime, period. Death Note. And it was amazing. After that, I ended up watching Cyberpunk Edgerunners, which is pretty good, but probably the worst of the three that I've seen. And then I watched Attack on Titan. And Attack on Titan I knew my mom would like, so I got her into that first. And then we watched Death Note, and my mom really liked Death Note. And now she wants to watch more animes. And I was in a call with my friends who all watch a lot of anime the other day. And my mom, like, said, ask them what, like, for recommendations on good anime. And I was like, oh my god. And they recommended, like, what you'd expect, Full Metal Alchemist, and what else? Full Metal Alchemist was a big one. Berserk was not recommended, no. She would not like Berserk. Cowboy Bebop was recommended, yep, obviously. Like, the ones that you guys immediately, like, have come to mind are the ones they recommended, but not Berserk, obviously. Evangelion? No, Evangelion's, like, weird, isn't it? I know there's, like, part of it, like, it's good, I heard. I know Vosh fucking loves it, but I also heard him rant about how it's sussy as fuck. And I don't want to watch anime that's sussy as fuck. I hate how much anime is fucking weird. Evangelion is good if you have a degree in literature. I don't think you have to have a degree in literature to have decent media literacy. I feel like a lot of people put the idea of media literacy on a pretty high pedestal. Once you recognize that in any good story that's well written, pretty much everything there that is given attention to is given attention for a reason, and you think about it instead of just kind of like letting your brain go numb to it and waiting for the exciting shit to happen like a lot of people do when consuming media, then you'll find that there's a lot more like foreshadowing, messaging for the audience, etc., and lessons to be learned from the media, as well as ways to glean the author's intent and, you know, maybe even get your own interpretation, just stuff like that. Bad writing doesn't mean literature. I don't know what I said there that would make you think that, but okay. Anyway, let's watch this video from CharityT21, because they donated $10 for this.
You make a fair point, right? I guess I'll concede on that.
Well, you sure didn't make it easy. You make quite a good argument, Al. But not good enough to find me out. Fool, it's already too late. Misa's already made the deal and can already see your name and lifespan. Now all I need is the chance to get that name from her. And I'll write your name in the death note. It's been fun, Al. You know, Al, it's getting late. Maybe it's time you and I head out. Would it be okay if I said goodnight to Misa privately?
Light, don't be so naughty.
That's not what I meant.
The impression of
Guess
Misa's
so.
good.
The student needs his sleep. But you know, this sitting around has gotten me quite the appetite. How would you two feel about ordering some dinner? My treat, of course.
Dinner?
Okay, chat. Here's the question I have for all of you. Is Light asexual? Or is he gay? My mom thinks he's asexual, but I think the entire time he was, like, sort of a little gay for L. Kind of in love with their like, rivalry. That's kind of the vibe that I got. And no, I'm not talking about because, like, the scene where Light, or L gives Light a foot rub. That was, like, some Jesus metaphor for foreshadowing what happens next. I'm talking about, like, the general idea that Light was obsessed with the, like, almost, like, in a sexual obsession way, at least the same way someone his age would normally be into sex. He was obsessed with the thrill of being chased by L. He wanted to take L down, but then after he took L down, he missed it. He very clearly missed it and was happy a little bit, a little exhilarated again when he found out someone close to L's level, as far as he could tell, was chasing him again when Nier came along. They can't hear you, Mom. You gotta stop that. My mom keeps on coming, like, right around the corner to like, try to talk to you guys, and you guys will only hear, like, a little bit of what she's saying, like, bits and pieces, but I can hear it, and it, like, throws off what I was saying. I gotta get her to stop doing that. Yeah, and of course there's, Light's last name backwards is I'm a gay, so do with that what you will, guys. I think we know.
Sounds good to me. Damn it! I should have known it wouldn't be so easy. Even now, he's being cautious. I can't act too suspicious. I just need a few more minutes.
Ooh, yes, please.
What did you have in mind, El?
Fair question. Why don't we order some Wendy's? You and I could split a 4 for 4. How's that sound like?
Okay. Wendy's 4 for 4? You think I'm that dense, Al? Of course I knew the Wendy's 4 for 4 sandwich, nuggets, fries, and choice of soft drink would barely be enough for the both of us. But of course, you knew I'd think that, didn't you, Ryuzaki? Well, wait, wouldn't the $5 biggie bag be more appropriate, seeing as it be split between the two of us?
Huh? Very perceptive, Light. I suppose you're right. So I was right. Even though I was the one paying, you still would recommend a more expensive meal. Just as I'd suspect a mass murderer such as yourself to do, Kira. However...
With the 4 for 4 price as close to $5 as it is, it's only the most logical conclusion to add those extra few cents. You can't pin anything on me. Face it, Al. This pitiful Hail Mary is pointless.
Let's get Taco Bell instead.
Taco Bell? How interesting.
Misa, you idiot! What the hell do you think you're doing? Is this some poor attempt to get us alone? Now? El can see right through that!
Taco Bell? Why on earth would she suggest Taco Bell? Is this some part of your game, Kira?
There has to be something I'm not seeing here. Wait, Taco Bell was founded in 1962. That was the same year that Marilyn Monroe died.
I love this part.
13 letters.
I've seen this
and
before.
are naming it up 2 words, making them 15.
They're on the same thought process.
The Romans praise their own god of death, Mors. But why him? Why? Mors, the god of death and casualty. Casualty in Spanish is Baja. The Baja Blast. I get it. She's trying to say she'll kill him, right here and now.
So that's your game.
Yes. Do it, Misa! Tell her how you want to Baja Blast and secure my position as god of the new world. Do it! Now!
You're gonna make a move right here, right now? Now do your worst, Kira. There are cameras all around this room. Every movement you make will be caught and seen by millions. Make your move, Lisa.
Do it!
No!
Wait, can you even get a Big Mac at Taco Bell?
Just kills him with his own hands. That's just the ending, is he just kills him with his own hands. Just fuck it. He doesn't need the death note anymore, he's got these hands. That was a great video. Because it's so accurate, right? Like, the how dramatic every bit is and how they're over, like, looking into every little tiny bit, but that happens in the show, just not to that ridiculous of a degree. It's perfection, okay? It's perfection. That's a good question. Can you get a Big Mac at Taco Bell? Go to Taco Bell, ask for a Big Mac, and tell me what they tell you, okay? I need to know. Because maybe they can, you know? They got ghost kitchens at a lot of those restaurants now. Because, you know, like, the whole, like, delivery driver thing. And so there's, like, a lot of Taco Bells and McDonald's that are ghost kitchens making foods for other big restaurants. Have I heard of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure? No, I've never heard of that before. Water. I was born yesterday. It started using the internet this morning. Okay, guys. I just realized it's been 30 minutes I've been live and we haven't done a segment yet. And, I have to go get my concealed pistol license today. And, I also want to go to the range today after that. So, I kind of do have to do a fairly quick stream today. So, it's not going to be as long as usual, unfortunately, for you guys. Because I know you guys like those long streams. But we're going to get a lot of segments crammed in. So, you know, you'll still get the same amount of content. That said, though, let's get the first segment brought up, huh?
Well, folks, there's something called the Red Pill movement.
Ben! Don't spoil them, Ben! You little cuck boy! Your big caterpillar eyebrows and your ridiculous-shaped facial hair. Oh my god. I thought I got fucked over in the facial hair genetic lottery, because I, like... It's actually stopped, like, it's starting to really close in, so, like, it's not really an issue anymore, but this bit here, and a little bit of here, doesn't sort of fill in as much as I would like, and, here, there's a bit that doesn't fill in as much as I would like, but the older I get, the more it kind of, like, closes in, so, you know, it's less of an issue now, but I always thought, like, oh, I got fucked over here with, like, the facial hair genetics, but look at Ben here, like, look at the shape that his facial hair has decided to grow into. And, like, I know he's got the facial hair up the sides of his cheeks, but it's all graying out. So it doesn't look like it's there, so he just looks like he has one of those, like, he looks like Homer Simpson. Yeah, he looks like Homer, thank you! Fred Durp got it before I did. He looks like Homer, he's got Homer facial hair. But, like, generally, you know, your facial hair is meant to be, like, you know, a bit of a this shape, and then meant to, like, come down everywhere pretty much past that. But, I do need to shave, though. It's getting a little scraggly. Regardless, though, Ben's not in a good place right now, genetically with his facial hair. That's unfortunate. That's sad. Why does Ben have facial hair? I think he wants to seem more, like, older or something like that, so he's growing it out. I hate having long facial hair, but I don't like it being completely smoothed out either, because it kind of makes it a little more susceptible to all sorts of things, such as like ingrown hairs and acne and whatnot. Yeah, it's not as good to like shave it all the way smooth. So I try to just keep it as trimmed as I can, so there's just barely a little bit of stubble. Just barely a little bit of stubble. That prevents the ingrown hairs from happening. Xanderhall, did you see this Keffals Discord leak? It's her saying she doesn't believe you can be trans without having dysphoria. Real? Real? Yeah, I don't agree with arguments like you don't need dysphoria to be trans, because how the hell do you justify irreversible surgeries if you don't have a crippling medical condition that requires it? If I said I didn't have dysphoria, I'd hope I couldn't access bottom surgery. Yeah, if you're getting surgeries, then yeah, you should have dysphoria. Like, I don't think that people who've just, like, made a decision that they want to get bottom surgery and they don't have dysphoria and they're not suffering from not getting bottom surgery should be able to just willy-nilly get that. That does seem like it would be a bit of a problem. I don't think that's not the argument that you're not able to be trans if you don't have dysphoria. It's the argument that you shouldn't be able to access surgeries that irreversibly change your body, like bottom surgery, if you don't actually have dysphoria. But she did not say that you can't be trans without having dysphoria. Once again, here, let me reopen the link and read it. I don't agree with arguments like you don't need dysphoria to be trans, because how the hell do you justify irreversible surgeries if you don't have a crippling medical condition that requires it? If I said I didn't have dysphoria, I'd hope I couldn't access bottom surgery. She specifically specifies, I know that was redundant, surgeries. Obviously, I don't think she considers non-binary people who don't seek medical treatment not trans, considering, you know, I've talked to Keffals in private and I know her positions on these things, but, like, yeah, I do think there's a little bit too much, like, yeah, who cares if they're trans or not? They should be able to get bottom surgery. Like, no, like, bottom surgery is a pretty serious procedure, you know? It should be given to people who need it. Especially with how limited access to it is. I think we should prioritize, you know, dysphoric people getting bottom surgery, because it's like the treatment for their dysphoria, which is crippling, like, to live with for people. So I kind of prioritize that as far as access to surgeries. Yeah. She went over it on her stream yesterday. Okay, can you send me a link? We can react to her take. I'd rather hear her, like, elaborate on her take than me, like, glean what I can from her, message that's out of context. Hot take, we should prioritize boob reductions for cancer patients. I mean, cancer patients not being able to get access to breast reduction surgeries or, like, breast removal is due in part to two major factors. One, affordability and access, which is, like, you know, those go hand in hand. And two, the fact that a lot of surgeries that involve women's lady bits, regardless of whether or not they're life-saving, a lot of male doctors and even many female doctors will not, or will very, very, like, they'll push back a lot on actually providing, because a lot of them can, you know, they're irreversible, you know, and a lot of them can result in you not being able to have children anymore. And a lot of people don't care. They care about living a lot more than, like, at some point maybe being able to have a kid, or at some point maybe having a husband that might be upset about that surgery. I don't know, right? These are the justifications a lot of these male doctors primarily will use. And sometimes you got to go to, like, multiple doctors that will turn you away to get, like, a it's like I forget what it's called. The name of it's blanking for ectopic pregnancy. There have been cases, like a terrifying amount of cases of women getting turned away from health treatment for ectopic pregnancies, meaning there is basically, you know, the eggs are stored like at the end of the fallopian tubes. The eggs come down to the fallopian tubes. They're supposed to sit around in the uterus and get fertilized or get flushed out during a period. But instead, and this usually results, a few complications and things have to happen for this to occur, but they're scarily common for what it is. Imagine basically an egg gets caught in the fallopian tubes, and there it is fertilized and starts developing in the fallopian tube. Basically, imagine like the male equivalent of this would be like a kidney stone forming inside of your urethra. And it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's gonna fucking burst, and it's gonna kill you when it does. It's going to kill you. And there are a lot of male doctors that will turn you away, that will refuse to even consider your suggestion that an ectopic pregnancy, which requires such serious medical intervention, could be possible because of what that serious medical attention will entail. So yeah, there's just a lot that goes into that, but I don't think like trans dudes, for example, are taking away breast reduction and breast removal surgeries away from like breast cancer patients. I don't think that's like a thing that's happening. That's why I'll be a virgin forever. Having sex, even with safety measures, ain't worth death that causes in me. Yeah, like I'd honestly be terrified to just carry a pregnancy to term normally if I was a woman. Like, Jesus Christ. Like, I get constipated for a few days and I dread the shit I'm gonna have to take. Can you imagine 9 months of a human developing inside of you? You've got a fucking bulge that comes out to here, and it's like, yeah, that's gotta come out. And if it doesn't want to come out nicely, we gotta cut you open. It's like, fuck, dude. Fuck. That's scary. Rusting Studios, I'm in a active hurry to get my segments done today because I have places to be that cannot be negotiated. I have an appointment set for after 1 p.m. So I have to finish up stream at, like, by 1 p.m., walk out the door at 1, and I'll be at my appointment on time, okay? So I cannot delay, unfortunately. And if I have to end the stream early, I have to end the stream early, sadly. So let's get into it, okay? By the way, if you want to support the stream, consider dropping a like. It's completely free. The thumbs up over on YouTube really mean a lot to me. You can also support me on YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, Stream Elements, and my website financially by donating, subscribing, or even gifting subs. No matter what, though, especially if you hit the like button because it's totally free, I really appreciate it. Thank you for watching, guys. Nice burp. Let's get into it. Some other time? I mean, I'm gonna watch Keffals' like explanation of the message on stream, and then maybe it depends on whether or not I see her argument and I disagree with it. Because I'm 99.9% sure when she says trans in that message, she means transsexual. And there are a lot of trans people who sort of clarify transsexual and transgender when in reference to people who are seeking those, like, very much, like, the serious medical procedures, such as bottom-top surgery, etc., phalloplasties, whatever it may be, and, like, people who are trans and they're valid, but they are actively not choosing to seek out those procedures. Those people are still trans, but they're not transsexual. Transsexual sounds very offensive. A lot of trans people still use the term transsexual in like context to people who are trans that actively pursue the sex altering procedures instead of just like social transition. There's a difference. And sometimes for the sake of like reference, people will use it in the trans community. I've seen it. It sounds offensive. I mean, I guess it's up to you. The problem is, like, there's really no, like, ideological glue that holds trans people together. That's the kind of thing you start to notice after a while. Like, it's just a bunch of people with very broad political opinions who are in many cases, unfortunate situation, and usually that guides them to some pretty good general policy positions, but other times it does not necessitate that whatsoever. There are a lot of trans people out there with horrible beliefs. Speaking of leaked messages of trans people with horrible beliefs, did you guys see the Soul Bunny shit? Did you guys see it? From what I've been told, Soul Bunny's old Twitter account leaked. And she was a big-time Trump supporter, alt-righter, shoe-on-head fan, and anti-feminist. People are talking about all this shit, but you guys haven't seen the best story to come out. Look at this shit, guys. You all remember Soul Bunny, I assume, one of the most notorious woke scolds on all of the platform, that is Twitter. She's kind of like fallen off and disappeared as of late, but I feel like this might be the final nail in the coffin. People have been sending me this and telling me it's happened. Soul Bunny's old Twitter account from 2017, late 2017. This is after, like, even I was, like, reactionary. I was a lefty or more liberal-leaning by the time these screenshots, or these tweets were made. Old Twitter account, and the tweets from them leaked, and many of the likes as well, and some of the, like, replies, too. And I just want to show them to you guys, because this is somebody who acts insanely morally pure, and, like, argues very emphatically against the concept of de-radicalization of people that are on the right, like young white teenage boys who are, like, edgelords and could very easily be moved over to the left if someone talked to them on their level and didn't, like, shame them and try to high horse them, like, and take the easy route with conversations with them. But yeah, it turns out that she herself, and she would probably never admit it and will no doubt deny this, was literally a Nazi. Like, only a few years ago. Let me show you guys. I guess this was the name of her old account, but this is apparently her. Just look at Atlanta. It has all different types of POC, from drug addicts to doctors. The only difference is the choices they made. I'm biracial, and you can say that crying about being oppressed won't get you anywhere. Get your ass up and get a job or continue your education. This is old, but I'd like to chime in with my own 2 cents. Being black does not mean that you can declare anyone racist without factual evidence. Ooh! Oh, damn, that's at least one take that I wish actually stuck around. Here's her likes. She liked a Donald Trump announcement. There is an incredible spirit of optimism sweeping the country right now. We're bringing back the jobs. And liked the fucking tweet. Oof. Oof. Liked this tweet. A special thanks to ICE for returning Mr. Silva to his home. This is Carlos Silva. He was deported back to Mexico on February 26th, 2017. And there's the picture of Carlos Silva with the Make America Mexico Again shirt saying deport this. Ooh, in favor of deporting people. Liking Gavin McInnes tweets. This is the guy who founded the Proud Boys. This is the founder, or at least co-founder maybe, of the Proud Boys. Liked a tweet from Rebel News and Gavin McInnes, the Proud Boys guy. Liking a tweet from PJW saying, oh yeah, hey, at hashtag Hollywood, stop killing kids. The Paul Joseph Watson tweet says, the problem is that even I cannot make someone who was briefly funny in the year 2000 relevant. I don't know what this is supposed to be referencing. I'm guessing he's just shitting on someone. Ooh. This is a good one. And then we've got the like on this one from, I don't know who this is. Derek saying, cooking a something up. Italian fingers at Shuon Head, and it's a picture of this guy in Shuon Head. I guess this guy's some, like, alt-writer, and back in 2018, Shu was collabing with him or something. Nothing changes. Everything stays, as we learned from one of the greatest cartoons ever made. And then, of course, we've got a reply to a Shuon Head tweet from 2018, where she said, "I just started getting my life together. Why we gotta go to war now?" Because Shuon Head thinks, like, every other day that America's about to go to war and World War III is gonna happen. And then Soul Bunny, as we know her now, replies, I wish you the best. Thank God I'm a T-slur, so banned from the draft." Whew. Wow, wow, wow. So, this is the person who basically started a large amount of the infighting and constant, like, vitriol within the left. The person who's been getting nonstop, signal boosted by lefty breadtube video essayists, and who has been high-horsing people on the left who are making content who have been on the left since she was a Nazi liking Donald Trump tweets on Twitter and following Proud Boys and the leader of the Proud Boys. It's also not true trans women are still eligible for the draft. It depends. Yeah, I think it depends. But did maybe Biden pull back the because the draft is different. Yeah, there'll never be another draft. Who cares about the draft? There will never be another draft, no matter how much the Republicans fearmonger about military, military recruitment rates going down. We have the biggest, most well-armed, most well-manned, most well-reserved military on the planet, okay? We are number one by a lot. We spend more, we have more, we are more. And nobody fucks with America militarily. The only way to take America out is to take the world out with nuclear blasts, or like an insane cyber attack, or a, like, I guess maybe a chemical attack, like a virus, unleashing like a super deadly, super spreading virus, which would probably also take out the whole world. So yeah, pretty much there's no way. While the recruitment is down, yes, doesn't change the fact that when you look at the grand scale, America is still so far ahead of everybody else. There's just never going to be another draft. There's never going to be. Stop falling for the fear-mongering. There's never going to be another draft in America. There's just not. Not to mention, America's funding towards the military means that each year we need less humans in the military than ever. Like, we're pretty damn, like, on top of, like, drone technology and using, like, long-distance munitions. It just, yeah, exactly, Dark Canuck. War just doesn't require as many bodies as it used to. Like, even if World War III happened, I genuinely don't see a draft occurring. Like, you haven't even considered our allies, too. Like, America would not be the only one fighting. We have treaties signed with many other powerful, powerful nations that are, like, up in the top 10, that, like, if we go to war, they gotta help us. You guys know that, right? Like, our being in the UN, our, like, treaties and all that, like, we've got a lot of powerful allies that have to help us, like, if we get into war. Like, serious war, like, actual, holy shit, this is war. Not like, you know, we're occupying a country and they're giving us a hard time, but America's not really in any real danger. Well, Hakon, there's never been a nuclear war in the history of the planet. The closest we've ever had to that was the 2 nukes we dropped on Japan, but that wasn't even a nuclear war because the nukes ended the war, and none were exchanged. China wouldn't use nukes. China is very vested in our success. Every bit of, like, antagonism America has with China, politically, it's just for show. China is very patriotic and nationalist, and so they do the whole China #1, like, literally, like, fuck America, we're better than them. You know, we're gonna outdo them in every way. Chinese exceptionalism shit, and then America does the same thing back at China. But at the same time, we are #1 trading partners with each other. We have a lot of national debt with each other. Well, China, we have a lot of national debt to China. And then, like, there's a lot of reasons why China wants to keep America around and not a glassed nuclear wasteland. And there's a lot of reason why, like, America, realistically, behind the scenes, you know, like, down low key, does not want China to be a glass nuclear wasteland. We need each other. Badly. China goes away, say goodbye to your iPhones that are anywhere near affordable price. If you think iPhones are expensive now, wait, like any phone. If you think any electronics that you buy are expensive now, dude, we don't need China as much. We do a lot of trade with Mexico, but no, we do a lot of fucking trade with China. If we lost trade with China, we would be in a big trouble, but not in as big of trouble as the entire world would be if America went down. So yeah, we're the best. We're the best. Sorry about that whole stun lock, Cherry, at the end here, but I'm sure you can make that into a concise video about the Soul Bunny DM leaks, or not DM leaks, the old Twitter account leaks, because I find that very funny. I found that to be very nice to read. A nice little ending, a bookend to the Soul Bunny saga. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that segment. I can't believe through all of that, there was evidence on Twitter this whole time of her having been a Nazi, like just a few years ago. And now she's like basically an op on the left, stirring up shit and spreading misinfo about popular lefty figures. Oh, a pillow, you weren't here for it. Yeah, I just finished up, I had stun locked when you got into it, but I had just done a segment about Soul Bunny having been a Nazi back in 2017. Her old Twitter account leaked, and it's a bunch of tweets of her just tweeting Nazi shit, liking Trump tweets and Gavin McInnes tweets, Ben Shapiro tweets, Paul Joseph Watson tweets, tweeting slurs and just alt-right talking points. She was just a Nazi, and then rebranded. Who would be surprised after, like, she built her name on repeatedly calling someone a slur online over and over again, and people defending her for it? Oh, it turned out she was a Nazi this whole time. I had my alt-right phase. Yeah, but she went, like, all the way. Like, she just pendulumed all the way to the other side. Like, from the far side of one end all the way to the far side of the other end. But not even that far left in terms of, like, political opinions. Just radical and LARPy. Yeah, horseshoe, unironically. Actual horseshoe theory. Alright, everyone. You all know what to do when I say action, right? 3, 2... I just started a segment, Cherry. Did you hear JF Gariépy might have murdered his wife? Okay. There's no news articles coming up about it. Does anyone have an article on it? Let me look at his Twitter. He tweeted 44 seconds ago. The mainstream media hit piece business is so thriving. I get multiple requests from multiple supposedly independent outlets ask me to dox the same person on the same day. Locationism, the false modern leftist idea that you are entitled to know where people are. CSI internet. Okay. Is it not like Kiwi Farms and other alt-right threads and forums that are known for doxing people online and, like, swatting people? Okay, well, I hope he didn't kill any underage autistic women that he groomed into marrying him. That would be unfortunate. Anyway, you all know what to do when I say action. 3, 2, 1, action! Alright! Ben Shabibo is at war with at war with the right, with the red pill community. He put out a video recently simply titled, "Do not take this red pill." My God, never would I think this day would come when Ben Shabibo himself would be against the fucking red pill. Now, this is very much because Ben Shapiro has, as of late, been having quite a few falling outs with the right, or other people on the far right. Ben Shapiro is very much a business-minded guy, and he's quite intelligent. He recognizes there's a very careful and fine line that, as a political right-wing commentator, you want to ride in order to avoid saying anything too far, as that it, like, completely walls you off from a general mainstream audience, while at the same time acquiescing enough that radical far-right people still feel comfortable watching your videos and supporting you. He plays the line very well, but the one thing he can't change, the one thing he can never make people forget, is that he's Jewish. And that's a problem on the right, with a large portion of the viewing demographic, particularly the audience of types like Nick Fuentes, who are Holocaust deniers and neo-Nazis. So they hate Ben Shapiro because he's Jewish, and oftentimes whenever he'd do speaking engagements, he'd get, like, crowded up on by Gariépers and maybe even Nick Fuentes himself, surrounded by Nick Fuentes fans, you know, just questioning him about, like, the Holocaust and random Jewish conspiracy theory shit from Nazis. Just, you know, your typical stuff. They annoy the fuck out of him, and Ben Shapiro actually has spoken out against Nazis on the right, not for any genuinely altruistic or morally positive reasons, only because he's got a personal vendetta against these people. But now he's having a very similar arc occur with the red pill community. Ben Shapiro's kind of an old school conservative, or he tries to play it up like he is. He is a genuine little scrawny nerd who really does seem like he grew up watching, like, a lot of classic sitcoms from prior to, like, The Simpsons, when it depicted, like, the white picket fence white family with the 2 kids and the dog and the suburban neighborhood and yada yada. And he idealizes that 1950s white America picket fence life and lifestyle a lot. He idolizes it a lot, and he wants to give off the impression that that is what he is and that is the life that he's living. And that doesn't really coincide very well with the Andrew Tate style of misogyny. There's a very big difference between the type of misogyny valued by most conservatives, where it's like they see women as their property, like if their woman, like their girlfriend or their wife, as their property, their woman, as they would say. And, like, they don't, there's still, like, a certain amount of love there, you could kind of argue, even if there's a massive underlying amount of misogyny in the way that, like, we build or view relationships and marriages, you know, here in America and a lot of the world. You know, like, a lot of particularly men think of it as, like, owning the woman you're in a relationship with, and if, like, that woman does anything that negates the idea that you own her effectively, then you're a lesser man, right? So that's a very different type of misogyny. That's the type of misogyny Ben Shapiro subscribes to. But that's very different than the type of misogyny someone like Andrew Tate or Just Pearly Things and a lot of those red pill types subscribe to, which is way more overt and just, it's just content meant for 12, 13, 14-year-old boys to watch and feel edgy for hating women. 12-year-old boys are just psychopaths. I don't know what to tell you. There's nothing funnier to a 12-year-old boy than misogyny. Maybe farts and, like, putting bugs in girls' hair, but, like, there's nothing funnier to a 12-year-old boy than screwing over women and bad things happening to women. They're just degenerate pieces of shit. That's just how it is. It's just how, and it will always be this way, okay? And there will always be a market for shithead adults to lower their maturity level down to the level of a 13-year-old to impress 12-year-olds. Leafy did it. Sneeko does it. Aiden Ross does it. Andrew Tate does it. What's his name? Rice Gum does it. Like, you will literally see 12-year-olds on the internet say, respect to this person for insert horrible thing they did. And the respect is for them so blatantly and proudly doing something objectively horrible, knowing how horrible it is, and not feeling a shred of guilt about it. How many times have you seen, like, teenagers, Zoomers, like, teenage white boys online, give someone props for doing something awful for their own gain? Like, white teen boys in America love Martin Shkreli. I don't know if you've seen this, but Martin Shkreli has a significant fan base. Because they view what he did as based. Like, doing something morally reprehensible for your own gain? Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. That's the kind of reaction you get. So, when you make content for that audience, you're just way more upfront and overt about it. There's no dog whistling. There's no mask on. And we're talking about, like, the Andrew Tate sphere, the red pill sphere. And that's the sphere that Ben Shapiro is just having a falling out with, that he's not really vibing with, because they subscribe to a much different type of misogyny than he does. He's more traditional. They're a little bit more new age. They like to groom women through online, like, chats into flying into a brand new, like, a completely different country and becoming sex slaves for their sex trafficking and porn making business. So, like, very different type of misogyny than, like, the barefoot pregnant in the kitchen kind of thing. Similar and both bad, but different and at odds with each other, it would seem. So let's take a look.
Well, folks, there's something called the red pill movement. It's sort of a far-right movement that focuses in on saying the unsayable, and now many of the red-pilled have taken the position.
Hold on. Red pill originated from, like, the idea of conservatism. Like, the idea was if you're liberal or left-leaning, you're blue-pilled, and if you're conservative or right-leaning, you're red-pilled. That was the idea. It was like that was the meme for, like, half a decade, since Trump really blew up, all the way up until maybe 2 years ago when red pill started to specifically refer to, like, incel shit. So I'm pretty certain Ben Shapiro has several times talked about taking the red pill, told people to take the red pill, etc., etc. Has he not? Because I could swear I've got one or two memories of him saying, like, oh, yeah, you need to be red-pilled. You should take the red pill now. That kind of thing.
That it's bad for men to get married. A fascinating debate has broken out about the value of marriage. It's really interesting. So there are a bunch of people on the so-called red-pilled right who have now suggested that marriage is bad for men, that men should not get married. Now, the case that they're making is not the liberal feminist case that basically men are useless and terrible and a woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle or anything like that.
The case they're making is that marriage is unfair to men because nowadays women have the right to divorce and, like, potentially get half of a man's things, and they have no-fault divorce, and they can take a man's children from him, and so you should honestly just not get married because it's just a way for women to take everything you have, those evil, horrible women. That's pretty much what the argument is.
They are making is that the stakes of marriage have been changed by things like no-fault divorce, custody arrangements, the child support payments and all the rest, spousal support, that basically the legal regimen has made it not a bargain for men to get married. Now, I agree with the critique of all of those policies. I think no-fault divorce is a disaster area. I think that the child custody arrangements that basically always go to mom no matter.
They really, really hate the fact that women can get divorced. That is the one thing that Ben Shapiro and these red pillars really agree on, is that women should not have the right to get divorced. They've been a lot more open about this lately, about their goal to end women's ability to divorce their husbands, especially no-fault divorce. So yeah, they don't like the idea that a woman should be able to have the freedom to leave the man they're in a relationship with.
No matter what, that is a serious problem. When you shift the incentive structure, there's a reason why the majority of divorces, the vast majority of divorces, are now initiated by women. That is not because in the past women were wildly abused and today they are wildly liberated. What that really is when you shift the incentive structure and it turns out that all the risk is now taken by men, women are...
This is a very interesting argument because what he's arguing right now is that a significant amount of women are just so evil that they would use the divorce system to marry men and get divorced simply because they want to take everything he has. As if it hasn't been like a long-standing known thing that most straight women are not happy in their marriages. Straight divorce rates are extremely high compared to gay divorce rates. And let's be honest, there's probably a lot of lesbian women out there that are in the closet forcing themselves into straight marriages and vice versa for gay men. that just like are doing it because that is what was expected and that's all they ever knew. And just they're in a loveless marriage and they're just there. I feel like that's like, yeah, compet, is that the term? Compliant heterosexuality, I think is what that's short for. I'm pretty certain that's like a lot of the unhappy, miserable marriages out there, especially the older the generations get. How many like boomer couples that just fucking hate each other have you seen? A lot of them have to have just been like forcing themselves to be straight for decades, and that's why they fucking hate each other, right? Like, it's not like there's just magically more gay people now. There's always been this amount of gay and trans people. It's just that millions upon millions of them have stayed in the closet and forced themselves into straightness. So, like, how much of that accounts for the huge divorce rates among older generational marriages?
Going to be the ones who actually activate and push that divorce button. However, the red-pilled have taken it one step further, and now they're telling young men, you should not get married. It's too dangerous to get married. Don't get married. That's foolish. That's foolish. So let's go through some of these arguments because they become very popular on the right. So let's start with Pearl Davis. So Pearl Davis is an anti-feminist who has become pretty popular these days. A lot of people label her sort of a female Andrew Tate, although without the checkered past. And here is Pearl Davis talking about marriage.
The TradCons, Daily Wire, conservatives are saying that Pearl's just a doom and gloomer who lies.
I really love this infighting. I genuinely love that they're back and forth fighting. It brings me so much joy. This is the beginning of their downfall. If they don't unite behind the singular cause of winning at all costs, they fall apart, and they lose. The only thing that gives the right the advantage is the fact that at most times they're able to agree that the primary objective is to win. Something the left can never do. But they're falling apart here. They always do in the end. Fascism and fascist groups are inherently they always fall to infighting. We exist in constant infighting, the left, and yet the left continues to exist and always has. The right, it comes in waves of popularity that always die down and are less popular, and the next wave is always less popular, less large. So, yeah.
About stats, just focuses on the negatives, never the positives, and all the men complaining are just crybabies. And so one day he comes home and he finds out that his wife had called the police on him.
Is she driving?
And told them that the first time they hooked up 10 years ago, he had quote unquote raped her.
I don't think so.
And the truth of the matter is, when a man has children, they're not his kids. A man has no way to have children and those kids be actually his. They're always hers because the courts give the women custody 90% of the time, and rich men are really the only ones that have the.
Okay, let's talk about the philosophy of like divorce courts, okay? It is true that in the past there have been many cases, and I've literally known many people who had this happen to them, where divorce courts, like preference for the woman to give custody, have been pretty bad for the kid. I literally growing up knew several kids who were like in the custody of their mothers, and their mothers were like horrible drug addict, like alcoholic abusers. Just awful people. I even knew one person who I will not name who had like been given custody to her mom, and then her mom dated a guy who for years and years and years would sexually assault her regularly. And the mom didn't do anything about it. The mom didn't seem to really even care. So yeah, that is definitely a problem. I do think it's an issue, especially when like the kid at like 15 years old is like, yeah, I would have been raped maybe 100 less times if I'd been given custody to my dad instead of my mom. So I definitely would have preferred, custody to my dad. Like I've heard kids say that to me when I was younger, because when you're in high school, especially, that's when you're getting exposed to a lot of insane shit that your friends have gone through, and shit starts to get real, and that's a thing. That is a problem. That does exist. The problem is these red pill people overstate it and weaponize it for very nefarious reasons. You see, I agree that's a problem, and I think that we should have stronger, more stringent guidelines on how we determine the best fit parent when it comes to these divorce court and family court scenarios, that don't just immediately assume women are the caregivers, and anytime a man is taking care. Here's a good example. It's misogynistic, by the way, as well as misandrist. It stems from the idea that men are not and cannot be caregivers. You see a man with his kids in the park, a lot of people see that and they go, "Aw, he's helping." Helping? No, he's parenting. He's nurturing. He's taking his kids to the park. He's reading them a story. He's telling them about, like, when they ask a question, he answers it and tells them about things about the world, because kids ask a lot of questions because they're curious about every fucking thing they see because they don't know. Like, that's not babysitting his own children. That's not helping the mom. That's parenting. That's being the caregiver. But we in our society, it is very common to just see anytime the father is doing nurturing behavior as helping or babysitting, when it's just, because you always just assume the mom's the actual parent. You know, the mom's the actual caregiver and nurturer. And it's misogynistic because it's ascribing the duty to mothers and women as if, like, that's a woman's job, changing diapers and what have you, and playing with the kids and whatnot. While also taking agency and ability from men by saying they are not capable of doing the things that women can do in regards to raising a child, which is, of course, bullshit. There are many fantastic single dads out there that have done a great job. And the problem is that the courts, generally speaking, especially, you know, if it's a jury court, I don't know if family courts tend to have juries. I feel like that's a case where they wouldn't. But, you know, it comes down to a decision of a person at the end of the day, these family courts. So regardless, the biases of those people are going to have a big effect on the court decision. And those people, much like we see with the criminological statistics when it comes to the rates for POC being, like, sentenced harsher for the same crimes as white people, bias plays a role. And it definitely does in family courts too. It does. But the horrible people who weaponize this reality are just as demonic as the individuals who take advantage of the bias in the family court and use it as a way to harm others, such as their children or their ex-partner, when it's, like, completely uncalled for.
Money to fight it and the time. So I asked the Daily Wire, Jeremy Boeing, Matt Walsh, is this just crybabies? Are they just they're crybaby, weak men who don't man up and want to risk that? So, you know, it's interesting because instead of demanding that the laws change and demanding women face repercussions for doing this stuff, you guys demand that men need to step up.
She thinks that it should be a crime for women to try to pursue no-fault divorce and get things from men. She also thinks abortion should be a crime. Like, she thinks a lot of things that she thinks women do to fuck over men should literally be a crime that is punished by law, but only when women do it. If you asked her if it should be a crime when men do it, she'd just respond, well, men never do that. She'll never, like, answer, no, I don't think it should be a crime, or yes, I think it should be a crime. She just takes the middle road and says, well, men don't do that. Men don't catfish, apparently. Men don't try to fuck over wealthier women in divorce courts, apparently. Apparently it's never happened.
And take part in a system that discriminates against them. You say, oh, find a girl that prays, she won't do it. And I had this thought too.
Yeah, she's also against women having the right to vote, obviously. Like I said, it's content for 12-year-olds who hear a woman say, I don't think women should have the right to vote, and they go, based. It, like, the audience of your average red pill YouTuber is literally the 13-year-old kid who's hacking in Rust and screaming the N-word over the hot mic while, like, aimbot ESPing outside your base all day. That is the average unironic Andrew Tate, Just Pearly Things Sneeko viewer. We saw the video of, like, Sneeko seeing his fans in real life, right? Sneeko sees his fans IRL. I feel like this clip is like required viewing for any time we do this, like, red pill content coverage. Sneeko did, like, an accidental fan meetup where just a bunch of his fans happened to be somewhere, and this is how it went. Oh, there's no audio, sadly. Here, let me see if I can find the audio, because it's way better when you can hear the horrible things the little shitters are saying. Here we go. So, you need to understand that the average Just Pearly Things or Andrew Tate or Sneeko viewer are literally the kids you see in this video.
Andrew Tate! Fuck the woman! Fuck the woman!
What? No, wait.
Sneeko.
We love women. We love women. We love women.
But not like transgenders.
Yes, sir. We love everybody. No.
All gays should die!
Yeah, merch, preach. What have I done?
Can I get in the video? Fucking talk! Can I get in the video?
Yeah. Talk to him.
Yo, what's up?
This is the kid that said all gays should die, and then he says to the camera, "Hey, what's up?" And does like an awkward face because now he's nervous. Like this is who we're talking about here when we refer to the audience of these red pillars. So, yeah. Like, I wasn't kidding when I said they make videos for teenage boys who are literally psychopaths and just want to see the cruelest shit they can possibly see. They find amusement in nothing but that, and usually they grow out of it. Yeah, it's the natural evolution of, like, my dad owns Microsoft kids, you know? Like, they start out at, like, 10 on Xbox Live. And they're the ones screaming just, like, angrily and then, like, whispering slurs and swear words so their parents don't hear them. Then by, like, 11 or 12, they're getting on CSGO and Rust because they got their first computer. And now they're, like, hot micing, screaming the N-word all day while, like, their parents are out at work. And then, like, around 15 or 16, they get into, like, Tarkov. And they're, like, just toxic in general, but maybe not as, like, you know, like just screaming slurs. And then they grow out of it around 18, 19, 20. Usually around losing your virginity is when you start to mature a lot as a guy. I'm sorry, but it's true. Once you start to no longer, like, put the idea of having sex on a pedestal because you've done it before, and it's like, oh, I've done it. Okay, well, that's checked off the list. You put a lot less grandeur into that, and all of a sudden it happens all the fucking time out of nowhere, which is a funny little thing. And then on top of that, it really comes down to the fact that, like, it helps you start to recognize women as people. Like, a lot of teenage boys do not view women as people. They view them as a goal, as a reward, as a trophy, as an object to obtain, as, like, a desire, but not as a sentient fellow human being with goals, like desires, preferences, a personality, and you know, an entire life they lived up to the moment before they met you. You just don't, like, a lot of teenage boys just don't recognize that because they're all incel little shits. But then they get older and they have more life experience and they start to recognize women as people, usually, or they grow up and they don't and they just end up being conservatives. And that's, like, the big turning point for a lot of these guys, that they're just going to grow out of the red pill shit. It's a dark reality to expose you all to, the dark truth of men, that pretty much every man was, like, a little shitter when they were a teenager. But it's true. It's true, and I'm not going to deny it. I'm not going to let you guys deny it. And pretty much 99% of young boys, especially these days, grow the fuck up out of it. Eventually. Some don't, and they end up being conservatives, but the rate of conservatism is dropping massively with each successive generation, and Gen Z is progressive as fuck, even with these shithead little teenage boys in mind, talking about how much they hate women online.
Until I found a Muslim girl that did the same thing. I found a Christian girl that did the same thing. I found a Catholic girl. It's happening all over. Whether you want to believe it or not, it is happening. I don't care about your religion. I don't care about your church. This happens everywhere.
Okay, so the argument that she's making against it, all these marital policies, those are correct arguments, and nobody is disregarding the pain of men who have been wrongfully victimized under these circumstances where the incentive structure is completely stacked against them. That is true. However, the benefits of marriage are still unbelievable. It does matter who you marry. To pretend that there is no difference between the person that you marry, that it's happening with Christians and Muslims, and it's all the same, that's statistical.
It's interesting how they can both be wrong despite having opposite opinions. Like, Ben Shapiro is like a breeder. So he wants everyone to get married and breed and breed and breed, all like white people and whatnot. But like Just Pearly Things is just anti-marriage for the sake of pleasing like teenage boys that are decades away from ever marrying anyway, and convincing them marriage is like awful, and like allowing them to fulfill their fantasy of being like burned out and depressed at the age of 12, even though they haven't experienced shit in life yet. I don't know. It's just it's interesting that they're both wrong and have opposite positions. Neither of them are right, and they're arguing with each other.
Statistically untrue. There are things that you can do to mitigate against the risk of divorce, and the person that you marry is the chief mitigation. The truth is that in the Jewish community, we always have a backup plan in the sense that every marital contract is a prenup. Every marital contract is a prenup, right? A Jewish ketubah is a prenup. It guarantees certain levels of spousal support, for example. If you give a get, then it makes prior arrangements and all the rest. But,
well, Just Pearly Things is against divorce and spousal support. She's opposed to those things. She sees marriage as a way that, or she says she sees marriage as a way for women to just like secure a life from men. So the interesting thing is Ben Shapiro and like classic conservatives like tradcons want women to see men as their way to achieving a decent life. Like, you can't go to school, you can't make money for yourself, you can't provide for yourself. You need to, as soon as possible, find a man that's likely to be successful, a high-value man, and cling on to him fast and cling on to him hard, and make sure you marry him young so that you can inherit and, like, have legal rights to all of his stuff and all of his wealth, and you get to, like, basically have him carry you to a happy life. That is what conservatives like Ben Shapiro want women to be taught, and have taught women for a very long time. While the red pillars say, look at this conservative enforced idea of what marriage is and how marriage works under like conservative viewpoints. Like, women are effectively looking for sugar daddies when they get married, not really a personal partner they love and plan to stay with. And that's why a lot of these marriages no doubt fall through as well. And so they take that and say, marriage is awful, divorce is awful, it only hurts men, men are getting the shit end of the stick, I feel bad for you, aren't I a great woman who's like giving away all of women's evil secrets on how they fuck over men. That's essentially her whole shtick.
One of the throwing out the baby with the bathwater is not the solution. So how about both? How about we revise the system of law? But also, in the meantime, you do need to find a spouse and get married to her. And if what it requires for you to feel comfortable doing that is to shift away from the state-mandated law and toward a contract.
You don't need to find a spouse, guys. I assure you. You can live alone and do just fine. I've done it for a little while now. I actually kind of very much like living alone. I'm excited for myself to be back to living alone, honestly, because, you know, I like having my mom visit. It's fun, but also I'm very accustomed to living alone, and I miss it. I think a lot of people overstate or understate how easy it is for humans to live alone as long as you regiment your life fairly well. Like for me, under normal circumstances, I wake up and the first thing I do is I make my bed. Not because anyone's going to come visit, not because there's anyone around to see it and say, oh, why didn't you make your bed or tell me to make my bed? Because it's my place and I like it to look nice. I keep the dishes clean as I make them. Because I'm the only one here making dishes usually, and I like it looking nice. I like my apartment looking nice. I take joy in that, and that sort of brings me a lot of joy. And the fact that there's no one around to fuck it up is enjoyable, and it gives you a lot of time to do things focused on yourself. For example, I'm trying to gain weight. I'm a hard gainer, for those that don't know. Like, hard gainer basically means I've got a fast metabolism and I require a lot of calories just for maintaining my weight. A lot more for like gaining weight, whether it be muscle or fat. So, well, that means I can just pig out on whatever like massively unhealthy foods I want without it affecting my weight, especially if it's just one big binge. It also means that like gaining weight and getting like muscular and gaining muscle mass and just generally keeping my weight up is really hard. Like, I have to eat till I'm full and then keep eating and staying full. Like, to gain weight, I have to stay full all day. That means constant meals, like non-stop, constant meals that, like, the second I feel like I could fit another little meal in there, I eat that meal. If I don't do that, I will slowly lose weight. And that's hard to maintain, but that's how I work, and I hate it. But it helps you maintain things like that when you're just kind of living alone and no one is around to distract you. And, you know, for me, it fits my lifestyle better. I would be quite upset if I lived in a world run by Ben Shapiro where I was forced to get married at, like, 21. I that would be fucking awful. You do not know someone until you've known them for a few years. Trust me. I know. Zan, how tall are you? Just out of curiosity. 5'10.5", it turns out. I went to the doctor's office recently, and they measured me, and I'm 5'10.5".
Arrangement, then do that as well, right? We can have churches that sponsor that sort of thing. Because the truth is that those are enforceable contracts in court very often, the pre-custody arrangements and all the rest of that sort of thing. I want to go through some of the stats with regard to the benefits of marriage because I think that it's also possible to exaggerate how bad things are for men. That doesn't mean they aren't really bad for men who end up divorced, or that women aren't divorcing men at an incredibly high rate overall, or that women aren't initiating the vast majority of divorce. Like, again, I agree with many of the critiques of current marital law. I agree with a lot of that stuff. The problem is that when you take it so far that you say that the solution for men is to not get married, now what you have done is you've created a second order effect where unmarried men become actual menaces. Okay, the reality is that men channel their aggressive drives toward building, or they channel it toward destroying. And a system in which women are unmarried and men are unmarried, that's something that the left wants. And if you acquiesce in that, then you actually end up destroying the very fundamental basis of society that allows for the...
So, basically what the left advocates for is, realistically, simply just having options, right? We don't want anybody to be locked in to a choice they made when they were young. Like, if you're 19 years old and you marry your college sweetheart or your high school sweetheart, you shouldn't be forced 20 years later to continue that relationship, even if you're, like, miserable in it, just because, like, laws say you're not allowed to divorce for no reason, quote unquote. When they say no-fault divorce, like divorcing for no reason, they mean, like, divorcing for any reason that isn't already a crime. Like a crime wasn't already committed, such as being, like, assaulted or abused, or there having been proven infidelity, I guess. Like, they think that just divorcing because there's no love in the marriage anymore, especially if it's the woman initiating the divorce, should be a crime and forbade by the law. That's what they're advocating for. Both Ben Shapiro as well as the Red Pillars. That's the thing they agree on.
Growing and building of society beyond the leftist principles. My answer to Pearl is both and. But yes, get married, and also we should work to change those laws. But by the way, the way that we date has an effect on how we get married and who we get married to.
Yeah, is he trying to argue that if men don't get married, they'll be violent? What? If anything, a violent man getting married gives that violent man something to be violent towards.
I mean, when I dated my wife, we went in knowing, as we began to date, that we were not going to sleep together until we were married. We knew for a fact that we were going to have long conversations about things that mattered. And
man, imagine being Ben Shapiro's wife. You, like, date Ben Shapiro for several years. You don't have sex with him. You don't know, like, what his dick looks like or how incapable of pleasuring you he's going to be. And then finally you get married. You're hitched. And you lose your virginity to Ben Shapiro, and he loses his virginity to you. And you realize, oh. Dry ass P word. Oh. And then you realize, oh, I made big mistake.
This is, by the way, the best available data suggests that this is how you end up with a tangible, durable marriage that lasts a very long time, is that everybody has to be committed going in. That value, when you put values at the center of dating, that obviously doesn't mean that you're going to be impervious to the possibility of divorce, but it does mean that your chances of divorce are really a lot lower. Now, I don't want to rip on Pearl here, and I don't think I am ripping on Pearl, frankly, but there are a bunch of other people who are making similar claims. So, for example, Brian Atlas was on the Whatever podcast, and here he was talking about marriage.
Would you consider a prenup?
Prenups are regularly thrown out all the time. They're typically non-enforceable, especially the longer the marriage goes on, the less likely they are to be enforced. Men get absolutely
Well, that's true, because oftentimes if it's an early marriage and a lot of time has passed, then at that point, there's a good chance that they've made wealth together. So the idea of a prenup is that, like, if you're already a pretty wealthy and successful person and you get into a marriage with someone who has far less wealth than you, then the divorce wouldn't be unfair if, like, a year later you got divorced and she took half of everything you have, right? Like, signing a prenup protects you from that. But if you get a prenup and, say, 10 years later, like, let's say you're in college, you don't have anything, you're both at pretty much equal, or, you know, relatively in the large grand scheme of things, equal wealth, but then now it's 10, 15 years later, you've started a business together, you, like, now have accumulated a lot of wealth together, and you've provided, or hell, maybe it's just one partner provided a lot of wealth for the other. At that point, it's like you built your lives together, you built your wealth together, whether one partner worked or not. And so, yeah, like, you are going to be able to get that prenup thrown out more likely than not, because the amount of time the marriage has gone on for, it's usually a decade plus, is the amount of time you can usually, if you're the non-working partner, justify getting marital support. But like what they're talking about, even with a prenup in place, but that's in very particular scenarios.
Destroyed in marriage and in divorce. Financially, when it comes to the kids, women are more likely to get custody. And then also, if you do get a divorce, the financial cost of just getting the attorney, getting all that involved. If it's
Hey guys, do you know how much of a fucking loser you have to be to wear a leather jacket inside? I'm wearing flannel indoors right now, and I've got no undershirt on, and it's getting a little musty in here, and I've got my window open, and it's October in Washington State. This guy is sweating his ass off, or has the AC cranked to nothing so he can look cool wearing a leather jacket hoodie indoors. That's how much of a loser and desperate to look cool this guy is. To wear a leather jacket inside.
It's a contested divorce, or you're going to spend mid-5 figures, 6 figures on attorneys. And you got to pay for her attorney too. 50% of marriages end in divorce. 80% of divorces are initiated by women. 90% if she's college educated. 90% of child support payments go from men to women. 97% of alimony payments go from men.
Remember, guys, they think women being college educated is bad because it makes them more capable of fucking over men. Like, this is literally just the women are evil and only want to fuck over men hour. That's what their entire show is. Like all these red pill shows.
To women, you know, you have no fault of divorce, so a woman can cheat on you. She can still get half her shit.
Okay, again, a lot of what he's saying is true. The stats on marriage are not completely true. I'll go through those in just one second. Again, the rip on the divorce law is a good rip. It is a fine rip. And the answer is not for men to avoid marriage. The answer is for men to find a good woman to get married to who is committed to values. Yes, of course marriage is a risk. Of course it is. And that risk is disproportionately borne by men at this point. That is true also. But is the reward worth the risk? The answer, in a huge majority of circumstances where both people are committed.
Sorry, what's the gay divorce rates again? Just curious. I mean, it seems like if you're trying to avoid these things, the best way to, like, as a guy, to avoid it, if 90% of divorces are initiated by women, it would be to marry a man, right? Ben. Gay marriage is the solution to the problem. You're too blind to see it.
Like, say, share Christian values, for example. The risk is worth it.
Who would have thought? Just like every other problem, the solution is to suck your homie's cock. Solves everything.
is the basic principle. Again, these arguments are made not just by people like this. Andrew Tate has made the same sorts of arguments. Here's Andrew Tate talking about how men don't benefit from marriage.
I think it's a fantastic environment, and I think in an idealistic world, that's the way it would be. I think the reason it's not happening today is that I don't think many men actually benefit from marriages or relationships.
Dude, I still get comments on my videos going over Andrew Tate's trial from his fans saying, he's been freed, bro. He's been let loose. And it's like, oh, no, no, no. They don't know that there's just a limit on how long you can hold someone in jail and house arrest. And that they're still doing the investigation, and they've got him already, like, they've got the noose around him with the amount of evidence and self-admitted, like, crimes he's done on wiretap and on video, self-admitted. They're literally just continuing to compile evidence. The case hasn't been dropped. He hasn't been freed. He's just allowed to walk because he's literally had every way to leave the country taken from him. He's been deemed no longer a flight risk. Oh, I cannot wait for all the, like, Andrew Tate stans that think he's been let off the hook for, like, when the news comes out that he's been sentenced to, like, decades in prison. And they're like, what? I thought he was off the hook. What the fuck? And they're going to be so confused, and it's going to be so funny, dude.
Anymore. And people are always going to have to require some degree of incentive. I think that we've set up the world now in a way where men are seen as worker droids. They're expected to go work all day, come home, clean up as well, share the cleaning with the woman, no meal prepared for them, not have any authority over the household, and just be a worker droid and be sad. And I don't think that many people understand that men are intrinsically wired to desire respect amongst our peers and in our...
All right. This is the one socially red-pilled take that I do kind of have. And that's that I do think there's a really toxic idea of how work should be distributed among us, like, couples, right? So assuming you are not married, or that you are married but don't have kids, and you're a one-couple working household, whether it's the woman or the man, usually the expectation is that the working party should also pitch in on home chores. Regardless of the fact that one party is the one literally paying for every bit of everything that's happening, that same party is still expected to do half of the chores of the house. And usually that layout is the man is the one who works and the woman is the one who stays at home. And I'm talking about homes where there's not kids, because if there's kids, then the woman is working a full-time job to take care of the kids. And the guy, even if he's working a full-time job, should come home and pull his part. But I do see a lot of resentment in those non-children having couples where it's like, guy comes home from 10-hour shift, wife has been home all day, maybe she's done a bit of cleaning, but, you know, they don't have kids. And the man comes home from working and is expected to do chores too. And it's like, okay, but, like, your job should be the chores if his job is to go out and work 8 or 10 hours a day to keep a roof over your head and the lights on. Like, that's not a fair balance of work, even if he is the one making the mess you're cleaning up. And the same applies if it's the woman who's the breadwinner as well. Only it's worse for the woman if she's the breadwinner, because in that case, oftentimes she's expected to do more work. Even more so if there's kids. But I do see that there's a fair amount of toxicity in heterosexual marriages and couples in that sense, where I do often see a lot of women who expect a guy to work 10 hours a day to keep a roof over their heads and then come home and do chores for several hours to keep her happy. And then on top of that, spend time with her. So it's like, that is a little bit much. I do think that's a little bit of a toxic perspective. Little bit of a boost for the bros out there. I'll give you guys that.
Our environments. This is why CEOs work so hard, because they get respect in their company.
CEOs famously work very hard. No. Not even capitalism, like, apologists argue that CEOs work hard. They argue the reason why CEOs are owed the amount of wealth they have is due to the fact that they incur a lot of risk, quote unquote, by making the decisions and holding the power and position they do. Not even, like, hardcore capitalist apologists argue that CEOs do more work than the average worker. They argue they take more risk, and that's why they're owed more wealth.
Okay, so, again, I don't disagree with much of what he's saying, but the solution, very often with the red pill kind of movement, the diagnosis is correct and the solution is wrong. That happens very, very often in this sort of movement. I want to talk to you about Daily Wire's most trusted privacy partner and premier sponsor of this show, ExpressVPN.
I forgot how much of these are always just dedicated to an ad. Okay, here we go. Oh, we got a Destiny clip. Okay, so apparently a Ben Shapiro Destiny debate is confirmed going to happen. Apparently it is confirmed going to happen. Last I heard. I saw it on Reddit, so it has to be true.
% off. The reason, by the way, that Pearl and the rest of the Red Pill movement think the way they do is because of arguments like the one that a person named Destiny makes with Pearl in this particular clip.
Women out earning men have a hard time respecting the men.
Oh, I am excited for this debate, dude. Oh, it's going to be interesting. The fastest debate of all time. It's going to be like that scene with the race that A-Train does in season 1 of The Boys, where it just, boom, it happens in a second. and everybody like just piled into a big stadium just to watch a like half a second race, like a fraction of a second long race in person. That's gonna be this debate.
They're with.
That's not true.
That's not true. I read into that data and it explained why. A lot of the time the women reported that they were expected to be in charge of the household duties and still work a job. And they had to...
Oh, come on. What percent of modern women actually cook? I'm just saying this shit's automated nowadays. I mean, you have a washing machine, a dishwasher.
Yeah, but you have to put it in the air fryer.
But as much as it's as much...
Oh, a term they love is modern women, by the way. They make a clarification between, like, trad women, like, you know... You guys know what I'm talking about, like shoe-on head style women, and like women that have self-respect and don't like want to just, I don't know, like be a trad wife. You know, like any woman who doesn't want to be a trad wife, they refer to as a modern woman. But the examples they use are like, here's a woman on TikTok talking about how awesome it is to cheat on multiple men to get everything you want from them, because they all have different benefits that you can get from dating them. And that's awful, and that exists, but they'll, like, show videos of that and say, these are modern women, a great example of a modern woman. And like, modern woman is, like, their big boogeyman within the red pill sphere.
Men still don't do it.
Still don't do it.
They still don't do it. That's the issue. Is that one of the big problems with households?
For divorce,
it absolutely is a reason. When you get older and you manage a household on your own, Pearl, you'll see how f***ing annoying it is when you're working and then you come home and everything is f***ed up and horrible and nobody's f***ing cleaning anything. Yeah, that is a totally valid reason for divorce, of course.
Chores to break
Yep. That's the argument I made before. Sure. Okay. Yeah.
up a home,
Pearl,
a family.
Have you lived in a filthy home? Like, it's so funny because like lifelong friends from like grade school, high school will dorm in college and then hate each other forever over like bad dorm roommates, and that's not even a relationship. So yeah, of course I think stuff like this is.
That's completely true. There are tons of people who will be best fucking friends, and then they become roommates because they think, oh, we're best friends, we'll be great roommates. And maybe it doesn't necessarily end the friendship, but it's a big fucking problem. They did not expect it to be as hard as it would end up being, you know? And honestly, yeah, simply having another person share a home with you fucking sucks. It disincentivizes you from cleaning because it's like, what's the point, right? But when you live alone, at least in my case, I am on top of that shit. Those memes where it's like fucking rolling up the ball up the boulder up the infinite hill, and it's like the dishes and the fucking laundry. That's not a problem for me when it's just me. But if it's me and another person, yeah, it's a lot worse because there's other people's mess constantly accumulating, and it's a stress. It's a big time stressor. And yeah, a lot of people don't consider that. He's completely right.
Is perfectly valid. I think splitting up duties in the household is like one of the most important parts of like a relationship.
Yes.
Because it's where you're spending most of the time together. This is why I say people get triggered when I say
it is literally probably the finances is probably the number one source of unhappiness in marriages, followed by the splitting of duties, of household duties. And then on top of that, there's the fact that, all right, I'm going to get a little red-pilled here, okay? I think women have a tendency to be way too stingy about how certain chores are done when it only affects the guy. And this is a woman thing. Trans women do this shit too, okay? Because you're women as well, and you've got the female brain. Women will do things like get mad at a dude if he doesn't fold his own clothes properly. And it's like, I've seen that happen. I've seen women complain about the way a guy will fold his own clothes and then refold the clothes for him, something he'll never notice or care about, and get mad at him that they had to do it. Like, how many times have you seen women on social media that are married complain about having to redo something their husbands did or their boyfriends did when they did not have to? It's just they prefer it that the way they ask their husband to do it, or prefer their husband do it, or their boyfriend do it, and their boyfriend doesn't have or has a different preference or just doesn't care as much. And yeah, my mom does this all the time with me arranging the dishes wrong in the cupboard. Exactly. It usually starts with like when you're a younger guy and your mom is like, you have to do it this way, and you're like, why? And then eventually it becomes a very similar situation when you live with a woman for the first time. Yeah. No, it's real. And you have to find a way to work through that kind of stuff. And the same applies with the allocation of home duties.
I don't think you're even dating until you live together. Because until you live together, you don't really know who the other person's like. And
Yep.
once you start living together and you see what the household duties are like, then you get a feel for what the relationship.
You're not even really dating until you've lived together for 6 months. Now, I'm not saying, like, not really dating in that you're not, like, exclusive or whatever. I mean, you're not really dating until you've lived together for 6 months. And I genuinely don't think you know your partner until you've lived together and dated for years. Like, several years. That's just how it is. They're like, hell, I didn't learn what I learned about Lonnie until, like, 2.5 years into the relationship. So, like, I'd say you can go a decade without truly knowing someone, probably.
So what Destiny is saying here is totally crazy. Okay, the idea that you get divorced, let's say you have kids, you get divorced because you can't split up who handles the dishwasher is nuts. And comparing marriage to roommates, college roommates, yes, because you don't expect to be roommates.
Wow, Ben Shapiro's delusional here. I'm sorry, but the vast majority of divorces happen because of finances, followed by just literal strain put on the relationship by lack of happiness in the relationship stemming from living together being very different than how relationships are when you don't live together. It's just massively different.
With your roommate for the rest of your life and have children with them, generally speaking. A marriage is not supposed to be a contractual arrangement that is purely about who shares household duties. It's supposed to be about building a household. So it's that attitude toward divorce that is making the red pill.
So what he means here is women should know their place. And he disagrees with the idea of figuring out how best to divvy out household duties. Jesus Christ.
Crew basically say, okay, well, if that's your version of marriage, then I'm not in. I agree. If that were my version of marriage, I would not be in. The point that I'm making is that that shouldn't be anybody's version of marriage. Just like the current version of divorce shouldn't be anybody's version of divorce. And I want to give you some stats that demonstrate that not all marriages are created equal. Not all predicates for marriage are the same. So Brad Wilcox, who is a social science scholar on all of this, he has a book called Get Married, and it's all about marriage.
Right when I thought maybe he was going to cite a study or a statistic that's widely agreed upon by, like, sociologists and people in this field, he's like, okay, so there's this one guy who wrote a book with a title that clearly denotes its bias. There's this one guy who wrote this one book.
And divorce.
With the title, make it like that's an argument for my side.
And here are some of the facts in that book that are well substantiated by the data. The number one factor in predicting a high-quality marriage is perceived partner commitment. If you believe that your partner is deeply committed to the marriage...
No, statistically, the number one cause of divorce and rockiness in marriages and relationships is finances.
...will be deeply committed to the marriage, which is one of the reasons why it really matters how you date. It really, really matters how you date. So I agree that in a context where you're picking up a girl at a bar and then you live together and then you get married to her, that's a very risky situation. You put yourself in a situation that is very risky, but that is not how I've ever recommended dating.
That rarely happens.
That is not ever how I've recommended getting married. It is all part of a holistic view of how male-female relationships work. If you just take marriage as an institution and you just throw it out there and however you date is supposed to be equivalent, that of course is not true. Women who attend church are 50% less likely to divorce. For example, so when you heard...
Because socially it is maligned to get a divorce. In, like, most religious conservative circles, they socially enforce bans against divorce because it's seen as, like, taboo. But, like, if they had legal power, they would just enforce it legally. So he's trying to argue, well, see, Christian marriages must be so much happier because the divorce rates are lower, when in reality, it's just that divorce is a massive socially imposed taboo.
Earlier talk about, for example, I've seen Christian women do, I've seen Muslim women. Yes, but the question is likelihood. You can always find somebody in any group who does X, Y, or Z. The question is, how often does that happen? How do you mitigate your risk? As far as the stat that 50% of marriages end in divorce, just about 40% right now of first marriages end in divorce, which is way, way too high. It's also down significantly.
Let's check out the rate of gay marriages that end divorce. Just thought we should check out that stat. One study suggests that approximately 15% of gay marriages end in divorce within 10 years, as opposed to 18% in their heterosexual counterparts. Wait, so they've literally been lying this entire time, the Ben Shapiro and the Red Pillars, about the stats being close to 50. In reality, it's 18% for straight couples in the first 10 years, with a much lower 15% for gay couples in the first 10 years. So I don't know what, like, stat is getting cherry-picked to get nearly 50%, but they're lying if we're talking about a decade-long time span.
since the 1980s. But again, it's not equivalent between groups. College-educated parents' risk of divorce has fallen by about 25% since the 1970s. And here's a good stat. Almost 90% of their children for college-educated parents are being raised in married, largely intact families today. So it turns out that there is actually a formula to a successful marriage. It tends to be conservative, religious, highly educated. Those would be...
Well, yeah, because they're literally socially pressured into not getting divorced. So the divorce rates are lower among Christian conservative women. Because they're taught from a very young age, you are never to divorce the man that you marry. The man that you marry, that your father approves of, now owns you. He is your husband. You are to please him. God wants you to please your husband no matter what. That's the kind of woman that Ben Shapiro wants men to marry. And granted, yeah, a lot of men would probably be pretty happy marrying a woman like that. Just basically a woman who's been trained from childhood that God wants her to be her husband's slave, like, would probably make the men she marries pretty unlikely to divorce her. That is a scenario that could happen. I'll let you decide whether or not that's a morally good thing to do. I personally think slavery is bad, even if it makes the people doing the slaving happy. But yeah, that's just my take.
Like the biggest things that are going to affect whether you end up staying married or whether you end up divorced. By the way, another factor that ends up determining whether you stay married or end up divorced is, again, about the nature of the marriage. Do you have kids? Marriages with kids divorce far less often than marriages without kids. In fact, the divorce rate for couples with kids is about 40% lower than the divorce rate for couples without kids, which makes sense because you have less investment. Once you have kids, then actually it damages another party for you to get divorced over the dishwasher.
Well, adding kids to the situation also decreases the likelihood of getting divorced even when there's abuse involved. Why is divorce bad, though? Because women shouldn't be allowed to have the freedom to get out of a relationship with a man. She should be forced to serve him forever, because that's what God wants, T-Loss a lot. That's what, like, religious conservative fundamentalists believe. You know that, right? Like, that is literally what they teach young girls from the start. They take, like, the dads take their little, like, daughters to purity balls where they celebrate how her virginity belongs to her father. You guys can clip me as much as you like as I say the most base shit ever, but, like, they take their daughters to purity balls to celebrate the idea that her virginity belongs to her father until her father gives his blessing for another man of his approved, stature, I guess, to own his daughter. The father hands off the daughter on the wedding aisle. Like you guys can clip me as much as you like and try to throw me off, but I'm saying the most based and true shit ever. Conservatives fundamentally train women from a young age to be little broodmare slaves to their husbands and to marry said husband as soon as possible. But until then, they're owned by their father. And oh my God, the creepy fucking dynamic conservative fathers have with their daughters. Whew. It is sus as fuck. Purity balls being one of the biggest examples.
Then somebody else pays for your crimes at that point. 77% of college-educated conservative parents are still in their first marriage. So are 70% of moderates and 68% of liberals.
The pictures are... Yeah, let's take a look at what purity balls are like, guys. This is interesting. This might get me copyrighted. Let's hope not.
I'm Meridian Paulson, I'm 14, and this is my third time going to the Purity Ball. I am so excited.
In America, there's a new women's movement attracting thousands of young girls.
I'm Kaylin, I'm 8, and I'm going to the Purity Ball tonight.
To an old-fashioned view.
Oh, we long for men to be men. We are desperate for manly men to lead in a way that is healthy and honoring to women.
It's all about chastity, obedience.
I believe we women were created to need the strength of the man.
And purity.
We are too valuable to simply give ourselves...
Do you guys thought I was exaggerating? Did you guys think I was exaggerating about how these young conservative, little girls are literally trained from childhood to idolize the idea of being a slave to their future husband, but in the meantime, they belong to their father.
...the way
to young men who would not treat us with great respect, honor, and worth.
It's all about women learning to follow men.
And the man will be the leader of the household.
Yes, yes.
They're called purity balls.
Oh, they got
a sacred
swords. Great.
covenant between fathers and daughters.
Choose before God to cover my daughter as her authority and protection in the area of purity.
Where dads.
These aren't like a weird niche thing, by the way. These are like a highly socially acceptable, beloved traditional Christian pastime in America. Like, this is in no way has like scrutiny thrown on it socially in broader circles. If like you're a father who takes your like 10-year-old daughter to the purity ball, like that doesn't impart social stigma against you in America unless you're in very progressive areas. So like it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad how normalized this kind of shit is. It's literal pedocon law.
Pledged to protect their girls' purity until marriage.
We live in a consuming fire of pop culture telling our daughters that the culture has the answer and they, not you, should have the greatest influence on your daughters.
Yeah, so it's pretty nightmarish, and that's what Ben Shapiro likes. It's the one thing that Ben Shapiro and the Red Pillars agree on, is that what you just saw there is women's place, and that's where they belong when they're kids.
And again, the number of newly divorced people per 1,000 married Americans has declined pretty markedly since the 80s. It was 22.6 in 1980. It is 13.6 today in 2021. As far as the notion that it's like damaging financially for men to get married, no, it's damaging for men to get divorced. It's not damaging for men to get married. Married men in their 30s earn about $95,000. If they're cohabiting, they earn about $68,000. If they're single, they earn about $42,000. The average marriage premium in household assets is more than $290,000 for a stably married man. So, again, I think what people are actually arguing about over here, to be fair to the Red Pill crew, I think what they're...
Imagine getting married for, like, financial incentives. I like how they talk about how awful it is to get divorced for financial incentives, but they love how, like, great it is to get married for financial incentives. Ah, yes. It's bad if women dishonestly divorce for money, but it's good if they dishonestly marry for money.
Actually arguing about is divorce. And so the question is, are you more likely to stay married or are you more likely to end up in a divorce situation? And that is
Yeah, I wonder how Ben feels about incentives for immigration and marriage. I wonder how he feels about those marriage incentives. Ooh.
A fair question depending on the process that you use for dating. In the cultural milieu in which you live. In the community where I live, an Orthodox Jewish community, not a lot of divorce. Like very, very low divorce rates. Why? Well, because everyone is religiously committed. Because everybody goes into marriage believing it is a sacred bond that actually matters. Because people don't...
There are many churches that will excommunicate you if you get divorced and the church doesn't like the reason. And excommunication in many churches can mean that any family members or friends that attend the church that continue to speak to you or ever, like, engage with you ever, like, they have to completely cut you out of their life. And if they don't, then they could get excommunicated too. It's not uncommon. The more culty religions love doing it, like Jehovah's Witnesses and Scientologists and Mormons, but Christians and whatnot are not afraid of it either. They do that as well.
Don't date for sex. People actually date looking forward to the day when they will have kids together, because every family in my neighborhood has 4+ kids. Those are the preconditions. But if the idea here is that your basic binary is, are you going to be married or divorced? Divorced is typically worse than never married, and married is way better than both divorced and never married. And so, yeah, it's a risk. But is it a coin flip? I don't think it's a coin flip. I think it is a decision that you have to make as to what kind of person you wish to date, how you wish to date that person, what kind of relationship you wish to build, and how seriously you take that commitment in the first place. Do the laws need to change? Absolutely, and they need to change. They're garbage. I totally agree with that. It is easy for men to be victimized under these circumstances. It's so easy that you should not enter the risk. Let's look at some of the upsides and the downsides. Here's a chart from Brad about opioid overdose deaths by gender, educational attainment, and marital status. And what you see is that among men...
The funny thing as well is that all of these, like, conservative chud grifter types that are making a career off of right-wing content are all themselves massive degenerates behind the scenes, just as everybody else is. They're no different. Like, obviously there was PJW, who was famously exposed by Lauren Southern as a massive creep in her DMs, where he was, like, really, really trying to fuck Lauren Southern and she wasn't down. And then he, like, started spamming her, like, repeatedly with, like, angry messages like, oh, well, no one's ever gonna like you, you whore. It was just like, damn, PJW, you just went full incel, my man. You got caught in 4K. That was funny as fuck. And then, of course, there's, like, holy shit, Ben Shapiro's sister was literally sending nudes around, right? That's how that got leaked. So, like, is she not a traditional, like, is she a modern woman? Is she not a traditional Christian woman? Because she was sending nudes and they got leaked? Because everybody knows about that. It's like a massive fucking meme. I don't know. It's just, it's funny how behind the scenes, these people who high horse so much about how morally pure they are themselves just as degenerate. Turns out humanity is degenerate. Source? I'm pretty sure it wouldn't be hard to find. Excuse me, I don't know about that. No, yeah, like, famously, Ben Shapiro's sister had, like, a big nude leak thing that happened, and it's been, like, a long memed thing. And usually I wouldn't bring it up because it's not relevant, but I think it is in the context of Ben Shapiro shit-talking women who engage in behavior like that and saying it makes them less valuable. It makes them less value. Like, even if you could ascribe value to, like, women as, like, their objects, but he does, and he sees that as something that removes value from them. Would that not apply to his own flesh and blood sister? Or many of the people that he works with and collaborates with who've been caught, like, simping and doing degenerate shit or with, like, degenerate shit in their search histories? Alex Jones, who's been caught multiple times watching trans porn and who, like, it's all but confirmed has, like, fucked Blair White. Like, what? Like, seriously. Behind the scenes, it's all 100% just a cover. They're high horsing, but they're just the same.
If you are single, never married, what you see is that the opioid overdoses per 100,000 age 25 plus, it's like 25 for single, never married men. It is even higher for divorce.
He fucked Blair White. All I know is I saw a meme, and I choose to believe it, of an image of Alex Jones and Blair White sitting next to each other when they were doing a podcast. And it was that meme from The Boys where Butcher says to the mute girl, they fucked. And she just nods. Or they're fucking, and then she just nods. Like, yep. And it's true. Yeah. No, real. I choose to believe it. The meme said so, and I believe the meme.
Men. And it is extremely low for married men. Really, really low for married men. And again, that's are you going to be one of the people who gets divorced or not? One of the things you can know going in is you will never get divorced. And then you have to make sure that you marry a woman who will never get divorced. And we can't pretend that divorce sort of falls on you like rain from the heavens. That's not right. The person this is why I give dating advice all the time. My number one dating advice.
Bro's giving dating advice, but he can't even get his wife's pussy wet. Bruh.
Date for values. Date for values. In the end, that's the only thing that's going to remain. Are you tired of the lies and the twist of...
Oh, fantastic. Okay. That's why I go to Shoe on Head for my news? True, me too. I only get my news from Shoe on Head. The most trustworthy source. Unbiased, too. Anyway. I hope you guys enjoyed that segment. I feel like it came out pretty good. I feel like we don't have a lot of viewers today, like a lot less than usual for no reason. Is somebody else live right now? Oh, Vosh is live. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, I had no idea. His stream didn't come up on my YouTube page. It's so bizarre. Usually it does. That makes sense. Now I know why. I was just confused. Like, why is my viewership looking like Vosh is live at the same time as me? And then, yeah, okay, cool. And Demon Mama's about to stream too? Yeah. Listen, there's literally no way for me to avoid streaming at the same time as other streamers, so that's just gonna kind of be a thing where we don't have, like, that many viewers watching live, but the videos do very well. So I'm fine with that. We'll probably always be in, like, the sub few hundreds in terms of viewership on most streams because, like, streaming at the same time as other people, but the viewership on videos has been going up a lot, and they've been doing really well. But I don't think I'll ever be a big streamer. I think I can be a big YouTuber, but I don't think I'll ever be a big streamer, unfortunately. Yeah. I got COVID for a third time. I'm so sorry, Minimum Volts. I really hope your natural immunity from 2 infections and hopefully a lot of vaccines helps you. You can be a big Hightail streamer? Maybe. I hope so. That'd be cool if, like, Hightail rocketed me up in the rankings. Anyway, I have to end stream now, though, because I do have to get out the door, like, 6 minutes ago to go do my appointment. I gotta get my concealed pistol license for Washington so I can conceal carry, and I'm also going to the shooting range today. So if you're lucky, I'll record a few videos of me shooting some guns at, like, onions or potatoes or something. Who knows? Anyway, guys, I love you all. You're amazing. You're beautiful. You're awesome. Have a good one. And I'll see you all later. Have a good one. Doo-doo fart.